We're talking about that topic, aren't we? Yeah, it's about that time. I've been talking about this on my stream for a long while now, and I'll continue to tell you guys twitch.tv/Showkill. That is where I mostly am these days. Make sure you guys follow me over there. Also, since I'm coming back to YouTube and doing content again, make sure you guys are, for one, subscribed if you're watching this video. And if you're already subscribed, make sure you guys are hitting the bell notification, the little bell icon down below, so you can make sure you get notified. And I hate to do the generic YouTuber stuff, but go ahead and like the video and comment because it helps with the algorithm, yada, yada. Y'all know me. I've never been like that, but it does help. So please do that if you enjoy the video, though, and only if you enjoy the video. Before I get into the video, though, I want to ask something that is probably going to be impossible for most of you because humans are humans. But please leave all pre-programmed, preconceived notions at the door. Okay, I don't care how you feel about this. I don't care which side you're on. I want you guys to come into this with as open of a mind as possible. I want you guys to listen to the words that I'm saying, not simply the fact that I am saying words. And I want you guys to think logically, rationally, and I want you guys to, kind of exercise the ability to question yourself and your own beliefs, because most people obviously have never done this in their lives and it shows. But let's go ahead and talk about this whole identity politics, this wokeism and video games issue that has been plaguing the gaming community for quite some time now. Let's get into that. I have a really serious problem with a lot of people that would be considered anti-woke. Now, hold on. Okay, don't start diving for your keyboards like people like to do. Listen, be calm and hear me out. And matter of fact, I'll go ahead and preface this, right? I don't like pandering. Pandering's annoying. It's obnoxious. It makes me roll my eyes. It's tasteless. I get that. But you guys have to understand that there is a difference between simply being annoyed by blatant, tasteless pandering and then being legitimately bothered, shaken to your core, because there is simply a female protagonist, a black protagonist, what have you. Trans character, non-binary character, take your pick, right? I want to make sure that I distinguish that those are two completely different things. Clarify in the comments for me, guys, but I think it was Dragon Age Origins or Inquisition. I remember one of those Dragon Age games, EA was literally like marketing the fact that they featured a trans character in the game. Like they used that as like a, hey, look, this is why you should buy our game because we have a trans character. And I thought that was like really weird because I'm like, why are you using someone's identity and who they are as a marketing ploy? Like that's kind of fucked up. That was like back in the day before we started having way more representation than what we have now. You know what I mean? And I was like, I don't know. That doesn't sit right to me. But that was it. That's all I felt about it, right? I didn't go on a tirade. I didn't say I'm just going to sit here and boycott EA over it because at the end of the day, I ultimately don't care. It doesn't bother me that there's a trans character in the game. What makes me different from the rest of you guys, who would be considered anti-woke, the rest of you who are always up in arms whenever there is a minority character on the screen or IP has a shift to a different character that is not a white straight male, right? The difference is that you guys are bothered by the identity of the characters versus their implementation. But before we even go further with that, let's look up the definition of woke, because a large problem is that people are using this term and they don't know even what it means or where it came from. So we are going to do that now. Woke, aware of and actively attentive to important societal facts and issues, especially issues of racial and social justice. Essentially, this started off as African American vernacular, black people, talking to other black peoples about racial inequalities. And then it got picked up for others when it comes to inequalities against the LGBT. Woke literally doesn't mean anything except, hey, you're awake. as in you are aware to the problems that are going on in this country, socially, class-wise, you name it, right? That's ultimately what the modern definition of that means. So if woke is simply making people unaware of the social inequalities and the oppressiveness of the government, why should you be anti-woke? Just blurting out the term to apply to any type of project that doesn't involve a straight white male, just blurting that out, woke, DEI, because you see someone who's not white and a man. You guys have to understand, that's brainlet shit. Now, let me also say this. I'm not going to sit here and generalize. I realize and I understand that it is not all of you. I get that. And some of you, I'm sure, have seen, or you've been called yourself, you've been called racist or bigoted and stuff like that, and it probably confuses you, right? You're like, what the hell? Like, I don't feel any type of way about black people or trans people or whatever. I just don't like, I just don't like the, agenda and the pushing and all that. If you're confused as to why you've been called that or why other people's have been called that, I will actually explain it to you guys right now, since apparently you don't get it. But what you guys have to understand is that, yes, believe it or not, racism is alive and well. Legitimate bigotry is, and notice I said legitimate, bigotry is alive and well and rampant. We live in this day and age where the people kind of have this mindset that someone is not racist unless they straight up sit here and call somebody the N-word verbally, right? And I need you guys to exhibit some slightly more acute critical thinking skills, please, for the love of God. Like, you guys are adults, all right? I assume most of you at least got through high school. Please think for just a little bit, please. The racists understand that it is not socially acceptable to be openly, just blatantly racist. People get that. Therefore, it is not, it's silly to think and assume and have this notion that someone isn't racist unless they specifically say, I don't like blank people, or they say a slur. Like, those are not things that are required in order to indicate that somebody is racist. In order to point out and find out, guys, who is an actual legitimate bigot, you have to pay attention to the more subtle things. Notice what they tend to get mad about. Notice which type of people they tend to use certain vocabulary for that they don't use for others. Stuff like that. People do that. And that's the type of stuff y'all need to look out for when you're looking to see, okay, who here is actually prejudiced against people, right? You're not good. I mean, yeah, you'll see people on Twitter just straight up say like the N-word or something, but you have to understand, guys, most racists do not have the balls to actually do that. People understand that stuff is not socially acceptable. They get that. So it's more subtle, right? So the reason why a lot of these people get called racist and why you may have been called racist or bigoted, I'm getting to the point here, is because you guys are on the same side as them when it comes to the whole anti-woke stuff, and you're not calling them out. That's the problem. And this happens on both sides, like politically, right? When it comes to the left and right, the large reason why people assume the worst of the other side is because the worst of each side isn't being checked by their respective sides. That same principle and concept applies to here. So if you're not one of these people I'm talking about, don't feel vexed. If the shoe doesn't fit, don't worry about it. But food for thought. Look at the people that are saying the same things you are saying. And then 99% of y'all, you get your lingo and your vocabulary from these people. You get your buzzwords from these people. Most of y'all didn't know what DEI was until you saw these YouTube and Twitter grifters saying it left and right. Anytime there is simply a woman on screen, it could be a trailer. The trailer is starting. There's the company logos. It's like a pan shot of the environment. And then there's a black guy. And then suddenly you just see in the chat, DEI. They haven't even seen the game. You know what I mean? They may not know the specific studio behind it. They may not know if the director himself is black or not. And they'll just immediately DEI. And do you understand and see the problem there? Do you understand how with some of these people, clearly they have a problem with these minorities or these, women, what have you? Because if you're watching a trailer of a game and you see a woman or a black guy or a gay character or something, why would that be your first thought instead of just continuing to watch the trailer to see what the fuck the game is about? Or at the very least, wait to see who's behind the game, again, who's directing it, who's involved, before you say it's DEI, right? Like, let's say the game is revealed to have Sweet Baby Inc. incorporated into it. Then at that point, I could understand. I think you're still stupid for using that buzzword, because a lot of you guys don't even know what DEI stands for. You don't understand why it's even being implemented. You don't even understand that the concept of DEI applies in so many different areas, such as the Electoral College. But we're not going to get into that. That's some real life shit that is beyond some of you, although it's a very simple concept. But you guys don't even understand how much things like inclusion have benefited you one way or another, regardless of your character, regardless of your sex. You have benefited in some type of inclusionary program or law in one way or another in your life. You guys have to understand that, like, you are being grifted to, and a lot of these people, I'm not saying all, but a lot of these people that like push these narratives and stuff on any political spectrum, whatever they're talking about, right? You have to understand that they're grifters. Some of them don't even believe this shit, but they understand that there is a market for this. They understand that there are a large group of Americans or just people worldwide that are against these ideals, that are against these people, and they are profiting off of that prejudice and hate. And you guys are like falling for that shit. I'm not saying that you're necessarily being hateful and prejudiced yourself, but you are helping them and perpetuating that prejudice by regurgitating these talking points that you didn't come up with yourself, that you didn't even take a second to think about, research, look up. If you just watch these YouTube videos or you're following people on Twitter and you just find yourself using the same terminology without studying the terminology, without looking at what opposing sides have to say about it, without looking up rebuttals, you know what I do when I hear something I agree with? I immediately go to YouTube or I immediately go to Google and I search for the opposition and what they have to say about it. Because if something sounds sound to me, because, I run through things myself, right? I'm like, okay, yeah, I can't really think of a counter to that. Even when I come to that conclusion, I go and see if anyone else does have a counter, right? I try to see if there's something that I'm missing or something that I'm understanding. And it doesn't happen every time, but sometimes I'm like, oh, wow, yeah, that sounded real good at first, but the way this person laid it out, or after I read that article, I can see that that's not necessarily true, or that's a lie, or it's partially true, right? Stuff, that's what you have to do. If you don't do that, and you're an adult, there's a problem. And I kind of blame the schools for this, because along with schools not teaching proper, conversational skills and debate, a lot of you guys have no fucking idea how to debate, because you straw man, you engage in fallacy after fallacy, you dodge questions, you don't even stay on topic. And that's part of the reason why I stopped the debates from back in the day, because you motherfuckers don't know how to do it. Okay? I want to have a conversation with people, but you guys don't know how to converse. That is the issue. But anyways, getting back to the point, you guys have to realize that part of the reason why you guys have this bad of a stigma as you do is because you are not handling these people on your side that might feel the same way about you, but like more extreme. You're not calling them out. You're not separating yourself from them. So do that. Start doing that, and you will see that things will be a lot calmer and people will be a lot more understanding to where you're coming from. Like I said myself, I'm anti-pandering. I am. Pandering's fucking annoying. I don't like it. But at the end of the day, what separates me from some of you guys is I just want the game to be good. I just want the show or movie to be good. That's it. You guys have to understand the second reason why people kind of look at y'all like kind of funny, because none of these things actually impact the quality of these games. Generally speaking, I could think of like one example off the top of my head where you could say like DEI or wokeness actually like failed the game. And that situation is Concord. This is an absolute fact. The main reason why Concord failed was because of the character designs. If you're going to make a character-based game, especially something that is a hero shooter, which is like the most character-based genre you could think of outside like fighting games, right? If you're going to do that, you have to have the character designs be good. People are going to want to, you have to have designs where people want to cosplay that character. And I hate to say this, I'm not a Coomer or a Gooner, but you also have to have character designs where people want to fuck that character too. Like, people like attractive characters. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Some of y'all are some fucking weirdos. Some of y'all are lame. Some of y'all are like clearly incels and stuff. But generally speaking, there's nothing wrong with liking attractive characters, right? So, you know, apparently they had different designs until Sweet Baby Inc. got involved. And then the designs were changed and the designs ultimately ended up making the game fail. And then apparently a lot of people, because, you know, I was one of those few people that actually enjoyed Concord. I thought it was like a very fundamentally well-built shooter. It was smooth. It controlled well. The shooting felt good. The animation work was like really good, actually. So like, you know, I could look past, the designs were absolutely shit, but I still enjoyed the game because it's a game, right? Right? I'm not going to sit here and fault people for not buying it. I get it. I'm big on aesthetics myself. If I don't like a game's art style, I won't say that I won't play it, but I definitely will not go out of my way to buy it. I just want to make sure that's clear. I'm not saying that, oh, you're stupid if you didn't buy the game because you couldn't get past the character designs. I think not buying a character-based game because the character designs were bad is totally legitimate. Let me make sure that is clear. But yeah, I think Concord is like one example I could think of where quote unquote like wokeism actually like made the game worse. But even then, it still didn't make it a bad game. Concord was it wasn't a bad game. It was more so a bad product, right? Because it was $40, no content, no single player content, bad hero designs in a hero shooter. Like, of course that's going to fail. To get off the Concord thing, you guys get the point. They'll like to point out these other games that may have struggled, like Dustborn. Oh, go woke, go broke. Dustborn failed. No, Dustborn didn't fail because it was woke, y'all. Dustborn failed because it was a shit game. It was an ugly game. It didn't control well. The gameplay was repetitive and monotonous. Mechanically, it was underwhelming. That's why it failed. Let's go over to like movies and TV shows, right? And for those of you who have me added on Twitter, y'all already know where I'm going with this probably, but you know, we had Star Wars The Acolyte this summer that came out, which was like a huge show covered by these grifters on YouTube, like the Critical Drinker and what's his name, Robohead or Robot Head, you know, all those other types of, you know, movie review channels and stuff like that. They tore that series apart, and I agreed with their criticisms, by the way. That show was absolutely terrible. I was dogging that show like damn near every episode that came out. Like, Star Wars is dead. I hate what they've done with Star Wars, you know? But, so you're like, okay, so you agree with us, right? Like, Acolyte was shit. Yeah, absolutely. But I agree with you guys I hate it for completely different reasons. You guys don't understand. The Acolyte wasn't bad because it featured a black protagonist and hardly any white people. You know, it was like a black protagonist. You had Soul, who was, I forget his name, but the South Korean actor, the lead on Squid Games, you know, you had him. Most of the cast was like some type of minority, right? Whether it was black, Asian, or woman. There wasn't that really many, I don't think there was that many white guys. There's like maybe 2 white guys in the Acolyte. And so people will attribute that to, oh, go woke, go broke. The show failed. It didn't get renewed for season 2. That's what you get for white erasure. And it's like, bro, no, guys, think for a second and apply this to anything you may consume, whether it's a movie, a game, a show. The Acolyte failed because it was shit. The writing was awful. The characters were inconsistent. The plot progression was contrived. That was one of the most contrived plots I have seen in modern time. It broke canon so many times. The pacing was awful. The show constantly contradicted its own themes. It was confusing on what it was trying to say sometimes. Do you see what I am saying? So think of all these movies or games that may have struggled or failed that you might have applied Go Woke, Go Broke to, and you'll notice, wait a minute, there's a lot of attributes about this thing that were not good. And it's like, yeah, it has nothing to do with the fact that it is woke or progressive, because that ultimately doesn't really have a bearing on the engineering of the game itself, or like writing good characters. Like, you can have well-written progressive characters or DEI characters. You can have well-written DEI characters, or you can have poorly written DEI characters. But when there's like a minority character that's written well, or they're a lead, and that show, that movie, that game succeeds, y'all ain't got shit to say. Y'all ain't got shit to say. But if it so happens to fail, you attribute that to DEI and wokeism and all that stuff. And you guys have to understand that it's like, you guys have been like influenced, like severely influenced. And I know you guys are probably going to like say the same about me, but again, remember, I'm saying that like I'm anti-pandering too. At the end of the day, I'm just not going to sit here and cry about it and whine, because ultimately it's not doing anything to these video games except just causing more women leads and black leads, which doesn't bother me because I'm normal. Like I'm just normal. And if you don't consider yourself someone who is prejudiced, if you don't consider yourself one of these people I was talking about, like the extremists on your side, well, then you have to ask yourself, ultimately, at the end of the day, why does it bother you when you see a black guy on a video game? I'm not telling you what the reason is. I'm asking you to ask yourself. And if you say it's because of some agenda being pushed or like DEI, well, again, ask yourself the question, why does more black people being represented bother me? Just ask yourself and come to that conclusion. If you're a real one and you're serious, you consider yourself like a real human being, not a bot. You've actually challenged yourself. You've not been the same person all your life, all your adult life. Because yes, you should be different from when you were 20. When you're 25, you should be different from when you were 20. When you're 30, you should be a different person than when you were 25, right? Like, you should continue growing. Of course, it kind of caps out. A lot of older people kind of stuck in their ways type deal. But like, a real person is someone who is constantly evolving, right? If you've never challenged or flipped on your own, beliefs before or something like that, that's a problem. And you should probably do something about that. Challenge yourself. But I do want to address another thing, because I already know this might be in some of the comments. People are going to say, I'm fine with black people and women and trans people. I have no issue or gripe with them. I just want it to be where those people are making their games. I don't want it to be like cis white people doing this stuff, because then that just feels inauthentic and stuff like that, which, okay, like that actually has some merit, because that's more so on the side of like, I just don't like tasteless pandering, which is completely valid. Hey, I'm there with you. Congratulations. Like, I'm with you on that. But here's the problem. Even in instances where it is like a trans creator making a trans character or a black creator making a black character, there's still an issue. I don't know if y'all remember at the last Video Game Awards, last year, we had, I believe, sorry if I'm butchering your name, but we had Abu Bakr Salim. I assume that's how it's pronounced. I'm going to call him Mr. Salim because his last name is easier to pronounce than his first name. He came out on the VGA stage and he announced his new game, which was, featured like a black African character, and it was like, Afrocentric and all that. And you can go back and look at the chats, people talking about, DEI and stuff. But then we also have these, grifters in this call.
Of the world. And he passed away a while back. And I'll tell you what, I'm still figuring it out.
You didn't meet him though.
The way his hands moving under that cape looks fucking ridiculous. Sorry.
By the way, if you're like a British like black person, like why? I'm sorry. I have no black person to bounce this off of.
Yeah,
why are you wearing
black?
like your
No
Rafiki or
because he's
Tiki?
leaning.
Yeah, you're right. He's wearing
Why are
this
you
sort of
wearing
like,
the thing? Why are you wearing the cape? The side
like, oh,
cape?
I got my Kwanzaa
I don't
costume
know,
on.
Sammy. His
Yeah,
game is
yeah,
based
exactly.
off
Why are you wearing the
of- His
Kwanzaa thing?
game is based off of his culture, and he's leaning heavy into it too.
But he doesn't know his culture.
While speaking in an
I
accent
know, I
that's
can't
more
speak
English than
for him on
mine.
that.
Didn't matter. Then he was crying.
Should have
and trying
been
to give the game
Spear
away.
Chucker Studios. It would have made more sense.
And you have to understand, like, this is not like a one-off situation, guys. This happens all the goddamn time. So you have to even understand that even when these people say like, oh, I just want real representation. If you guys want more black characters, black people should make them. And I agree. I don't like race swaps, especially when it comes to like comic book characters. I hate that. Ultimately, yeah, race isn't important to every character. It's important to some versus others, like Magneto, for instance. You can't ever race swap. Please, MCU, do not race swap Magneto. Don't do that, please. But so I get that concept. But even then, still, it's like, just make characters look how they look, right? That's how I feel. And that doesn't even go for just race. That also goes for like, height, how their hair generally is, all that. Like, I just want my characters from the comic books to just look how they look when they're put on the screen, right? So like, I'm with you guys there. I hate it when there's like a redhead character and they always get recast by like a black person. I don't understand why that's a trend in Hollywood. I think it's the weirdest thing in the world. Can we get some redhead actors? Are there not redhead actors out there? Like, what's going on? So like, I get it, and I'm with y'all to a certain extent, but you have to understand that even when these people say, oh, black people should just make black characters, women should just make new strong female leads, stuff like that. When that does happen, it's still a problem. It's still a problem. So when that happens and it's still a problem for these people, what conclusion could you come to? If they say, I have no problem with black people, I just want there to be original black characters made by black people, and that exact thing happens, or I just want a black game made by a black person, and that happens, and they still have an issue before the game is even released. So I'm not talking about like an issue like they've played it. I'm talking, these people were flaming this as it was being announced. We didn't know shit about the game. What do you think those people are? Do you see what I'm saying? Think. Just think. It's not hard. Media hasn't gotten woke. Media has been woke since damn near the dawn of time, since 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s onwards. Like this legacy media, things that are like legacy franchises or properties, like they've always been woke. So nothing has actually changed outside the fact that things are more on the nose. And a lot of this is because things aren't presented as, genuinely, and there is a lot of, pandering and stuff like that. But either way you slice it, nothing has actually changed. I just think that things have gotten more on the nose, and I think that's happened because you guys haven't been understanding the media that you've been consuming to begin with, Like, for instance, people talk about the MCU getting, all woke and progressive and stuff, and it's like, bro, you have to realize, like, comics are from... Some of these comics are, like, from the 20s, like, you know what I mean? Like, 30s and stuff. Like, let's Google when was Superman created. Yeah, Superman was, like, 1938, okay? So, like, we've had the 40s and 50s where a lot of these properties... were created, like the X-Men and Superman and Like, what are some other ones? Transformers, for instance. Transformers is actually woke, you know. But like X-Men has always been woke. It is the whole thing about X-Men is literal prejudice against people for who they are. Do you realize that? And then, you know, people talk about, oh, MCU, because, you know, there's a lot of like female characters replacing the legacy cast. You know, we have like She-Hulk, and we have what was her name? You know, we have Cassie, we have Kate Bishop, and it's like, you do understand they're pulling these characters from the comics, right? Some of these characters are from like 10 years ago, 20 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, Disney movies, Mulan. You realize that was women empowerment, right? Now, did you have a problem with Mulan? No. And I assume that the reason why you didn't have a problem with Mulan is because it was well written. And like, oh, yeah, so like that proves my point of what I was saying. If your argument is going to be, well, those things didn't bother me because they were well presented and well built, then that proves my point with what I was saying earlier about how it doesn't matter if something is being inclusive or progressive or not. That ultimately, at the end of the day, generally speaking, has no bearing on the quality of that product. It depends on the execution. Let's talk about go woke, go broke specifically, because it's not true. And it's so blatantly not true to the point where if someone says that line, I already know that they have been successfully grifted. Because if you are a free thinker, someone who thinks for themselves, checks things out, you wouldn't be using that line at all, because you would realize that plenty of progressive games have sold extremely well, and some of the best-selling games of all time, or at least recent time, are progressive games. And like I was saying with, like, you know, movies and shows and stuff that's, you know, from back then. Oh, I forgot Star Trek. Star Trek's another. Star Trek is hella woke. Like, are y'all serious? Like, Star Trek has always been woke. You're insane. What do y'all think Star Wars is about? The Empire. That's imperialism. They're Nazis. Like, hello. Anyways. You know, we have Hogwarts Legacy, which was like the biggest selling game of last year. Had a trans character, had plenty of like progressive things in that game. We had Starfield. Cyberpunk is you could put a dick on a girl character in Cyberpunk. That's woke, right? But it was a successful game after the fact, right? Starfield. The Last of Us 2, that's woke, right? They replaced the protagonist with a woman, a gay woman. Oh, shit. But y'all still play the game, right? Y'all still gave it a 9+, right? It's still a good game, right? You know, Mortal Kombat 11 was the highest selling fighting game of all time. That game had a lot of things in it that people would consider woke. Matter of fact, I'm not sure if y'all remember, but there's this whole controversy about MK11, how they covered up the female characters, particularly the female ninjas, you know, Katana, Jade, and Melina. That was a whole thing. And then this was even the crazier thing. I'm pretty sure I did a video on this because it just boggled my mind. And one of the tower endings, towers are basically like arcades in MK, for those who don't know. It's like an arcade mode, and there's a unique ending for each character, as in every fighting game. And in Jax's ending, his ending was he used the hourglass to go back in time and stop the transatlantic slave trade from happening. And people were mad about that. People were mad that a fictional black man used time travel powers to stop black slavery. You have Hades, which is one of the most hailed indie games of all time. That game is like hella progressive. There's gay, bi, you know, like all types of in-between characters all throughout that game. The protagonist himself is canonically bisexual. But go woke, go broke, right? Call of Duty has pride flags that you can put in your banners, or, you know, the icons and stuff like that. BioShock is woke. Mass Effect is woke. Fallout is hella woke. Are y'all stupid? And I forgot to mention, and I'm glad this happened the day I decided to finish this video, but apparently the new Dragon Age game, was it Viogard? broke records for BioWare game launches on Steam and is currently #1 on Steam. But go woke, go broke, right? This whole go woke, go broke shit really just highlights how much y'all are not paying attention. You're not paying attention to the games that you play. Damn near like 98% of the media you consume is woke. And it always has been. This is not a new development. It's not. You can argue it's more prevalent. Yes. You can argue that it's not done as tastefully. Yes, I agree. Is that something to get up in arms about though? Especially, and this is my main point, because y'all know how I am, and y'all know what I'm always gonna bring it back around to. Is that what we should be coming together on as a gaming community to combat? Is black people and women being shoehorned into games? Or is it these anti-consumer business practices? Is it these godforsaken storefronts with these price gouging, greedy ass pricings? Is it these games being pushed out before they're ready? We're spending $70 on like alpha builds of games. Is it unfair DLC? Is it games running like crap, being unplayable? Is it not having all the features that they prompt, right? Like there are I'm getting mad because y'all know how I feel about this. Y'all watch my last video. There's a lot more, but do you see what I'm saying? It is hard for me to take y'all seriously and for me to think of you guys as like being authentically just like, no, like legit. I just don't like pandering. It's hard for me to believe that with some of y'all because y'all are sitting here making a bigger deal out of forced representation some of the time, because that's another thing. You guys throw DEI and all that stuff at any and all instances of a game or a show that doesn't primarily feature a white guy. In some of these cases, it's absolutely forced. Yeah, in some of these cases, it's absolutely pandering. But you guys are applying it to like everything, and when you apply it to everything, that also makes people give you the side eye, like, okay, he's kind of acting strange about black people. Like, you know, like every single time there's a game announced and there's a black character, like he makes this strange tweet against that game that I haven't seen him make against another game that doesn't feature a black character or a woman or something, right? Like, I'm not telling you guys how I feel. I'm telling you simply what the reality of the situation is. That is why you guys are looked at the way that you are, or your side or your group is. And again, if you're not one of these people, separate yourself. Let it be known in the comments right now. If you want to come on stream and talk about it, let it be known on stream. Denounce these people. Denounce the grifters. Denounce the racists. Denounce the sexists. Denounce the people that are homophobic, transphobic, all that stuff. If you legitimately don't have a problem with them, denounce those people, mark yourself as separate from them, and don't use their lingo. Don't use their talking points, because that just makes it seem like you're one of them, right? A few weeks ago, I posted on Twitter that I wanted to host a debate on my Twitch between, just for lack of better terms, an educated anti-woker. So stupid saying these terms. And I can't even say someone who like is woke, because it's really just like, no, because here's the thing, right? Like you don't even really like see most of these people on Twitter talking about, oh boy, like the new Dragon Age allows for, surgery scars. Like you don't really see people saying that unless they are, trans, which makes sense. But like you just kind of see them like not caring because it doesn't affect the fucking game, right? Like, yeah. So I can't even really say like it's someone on the other side, because the other side is just really people that are just focused on the video game elements of the video game, But yeah, like I want to get someone who is against this stuff against someone who is, for lack of a better term, for it, right? No one really took me up on that offer, so I'm going to extend that offer here on YouTube. If 2 people would like to debate or talk about this, let's do that. Matter of fact, I'll spice it up. If y'all would like to talk to me about it, if no one else in the comment section is willing to do it, and like I don't know who they are, or I don't know if they're going to be well spoken, because I want to make sure these are 2 really well spoken, educated, at least average intelligence individuals. Like, okay, they're normal people. It seems rational enough. I want to make sure that I'm representing both sides well and fairly, Jubilee, right? Because I'm not trying to grift. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the point. The point is to legitimately have a dialogue. And, maybe there's some of you out here that are against this stuff, and you personally have some type of, you have some other way to explain this that I haven't heard before, right? You're different from the other people, and like, this is why you have a particular problem. You're going to explain it, and like, oh, okay, that makes sense, right? I'm legitimately open to that, and I would love to hear it. Honestly. I recorded 50 minutes of this video. I intended it for it to be like 15 minutes or less, but as I got into it, I just kind of started rambling and ranting and stuff, because when you think about it, this stuff is largely just nonsensical, and it's irrational, and I feel like people do not question themselves enough. Some people don't have inner dialogue. Some people aren't able to think past the first thing that they see. Confirmation bias is a bitch, and like I was explaining how I like to challenge myself earlier, people don't if they hear something that they generally agree with, or it's something they already feel, they'll run with it. They won't make sure that it's true. They won't challenge it, and that's a problem. But that's it for this video, y'all. Don't forget about the debate or discussion offer. By the time this goes live, I will most likely be live on Twitch, so a link to that will be down below in the description and probably in the comments as well. Thank you for watching, everybody. That's it for this video. I'm out of here. Peace.